I'm Joe Fairless. This is the world's longest running daily real estate investing podcast. We only talk about the best advice ever. We don't get into any fluffy stuff. With us today, a returning best ever guest. And because he is a returning best ever guest, we're not going to hear his best advice ever. You can just go to episode number 580. The show is titled How He Traded a BMW for a House and Masters Memphis REI. So if you're curious about how our best ever guest today, Bryan Harris, traded a BMW for a house and why he did that, then go listen to episode 580. Today, because it's Saturday, we're going to talk about a challenging situation, a sticky situation he was in and how he overcame it, so that if you come across a situation similar to this, you'll know how to handle it. Bryan, how you doing, my friend?
Absolutely amazing, man. Thanks for having me on the show, bro.
Hey, enjoyed it the first go around and had to do it again. Looking forward to diving in a little bit about Bryan. He is the owner of Homes for 10K, and he's a real estate mentor. He's built several multi-million-dollar businesses from conception to 8 figures. By age 27, he owned and managed an 8-figure real estate portfolio, including over 120 properties. He's based in Memphis, Tennessee. With that being said, Bryan, you want to give the best ever listeners a little bit more about your background and then tell us the sticky situation you were in.
In a nutshell, a little bit about me is, like you just said, man, I've had some great businesses and I've lost some amazing businesses as well and had to restart from scratch. And I'll just kind of go into that a little bit more. With that being said, one of the worst things that I feel that happened to me, but in the same breath, one of the best things is the economy, the 2008 recession. I remember being in a hotel in 2008 and the news station said, "America, welcome to the official recession." And I remember thinking, like, oh, my God, it's not a recession. I'm balling, man. But I was in a city where Memphis, Tennessee, where there was a ripple effect. So I didn't feel what was happening until like a year or two later. But make a long story short, I ended up losing everything that I had built. Most of the houses and all of the things that I felt that defined me. And what I learned from that, what I had to learn from that is myself. I had to look at self. I had to look at, it's not the economy. It's not anything around me. There are people still making money in this economy. What about me caused this? And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we all can learn. Instead of pointing the finger, everybody knows when I point the finger at you, 3 are pointing back at me. So I could point the finger at the economy and say, the economy did this, the economy did that. But more importantly, what about me changed? So I realized that my way of thinking had changed from an abundance mindset to accumulate 6-figure months, 7-figure months. It changed and shifted from an abundance mindset. And I noticed how my thought process has shifted to a lack mindset. I had stopped investing as much as I had started holding on to money, which means that I was a little bit more afraid because of the things that I was starting to hear was going on. So I held on to money. I wasn't aggressive anymore. So there's a lot of things that I did. So what I did was I used that time as a time to redevelop myself. And by redeveloping myself, I learned the importance of looking at the cause. The CAUSE, the cause of everything is the way I think. And I knew that if I wanted to change my future, Joe, I had to change my now. And the way I did that was I literally went into a different mindset of, okay, I know I'm right here. I've lost all these houses. My bank account is damn near dry. I know where I am physically in this moment right now, but you know what? I can choose to be in a different place at a different time mentally. So what I learned how to do was visualize. I read a book called The Master Key System. Everybody knows about Think and Grow Rich, but I wanted to learn the art behind visualizing. Now, some people say, man, you can't just sit up and meditate and make things happen. No, you can't, but you just can't sit up and hum all day. But what you can do is that's the start of my day. So I've implemented this ritual to where at the beginning of my day and at the end of my day, I see where I want to be. And I literally live in that mindset. I live in it. So what happened was I love people like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. I'm huge fans of those guys, the great ones. Even Conor McGregor and what's his name, the guy, Tom Brady. Huge fans of these guys. But I researched these guys Conor McGregor wasn't out then. But I researched these other guys and Olympic athletes, and they talked about how they use the art of visualization to win races. And they talked about, and I'm going into detail about this, but they talked about how the same muscles that were fired in the race that they used to win, when they visualized, they hooked them up to these machines, and those same muscles were fired in the visualization as if the body or the mind didn't know that they wasn't actually running the race. And so they said the people that did these visualizations, it was like 80 or 90% of them won more than the people who didn't visualize. So my thought process was, if they did it in sport, I can do it in business. So what I would do is I would visualize myself. I did a video on my Facebook page, too, about this the other day, bro. Like, I visualize myself being at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a month, right? And I made an image of my bank account to where I stopped looking at my negative bank account, like the zeros, right? I stopped looking at it, and I changed the image of my bank account, how it looks on my phone, and I did it, paint or whatever, and I put it on my phone to where it's almost as if like that's the only thing that I was seeing. And so it was like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 or whatever, and whatever I wanted at the time. And what's crazy is I remember being in the moment, and I included all my senses, meaning my eyes, when I was in that moment. And I'm talking about how I came out of, I was in that moment, my eyes would see it. I would pay attention to what I should be hearing at that time. I may have some Jay-Z playing in the background, like, ballin', you know, or I would include what I'm smelling, the leather of my car or the cologne that I wear. It's called a multi-sensory, Google this, multi-sensory visualization. And it talks about when you include all of your senses in the visualization, it magnetizes the moments to you even more. I can go into that in more detail, but in a nutshell, that's what I learned how to do. So I do that every morning for the moments that I want to create. And what happens is when I'm standing in those moments in my physical body, when it actually happens, I'm able to look back at how it all marveled, meaning the valleys, the peaks, the ups and downs, the circumstances, the people that were presented to me to make those events occur. I don't have to worry about how that's going to happen. All I had to do was focus on the end result, even in the darkest hour. Even when it's at its worst, like, oh, man, this shit isn't going to work, right? Even in those moments, I'm still able to go into my mind and have a readily available end result to implant in my brain when the bad stuff is happening. Somebody says, well, what do you do when you have a problem? Or what do you do when you need money? Because I'm human. I've been there before. What I do at this point, it sounds crazy, but I go shut myself off in a room, or I go hop in a car, and I have these things I call audio visuals, and I play it until my phone starts ringing or something happens. Now, that doesn't say that I don't work my butt off, like I don't put things in place, like I don't market, I don't prospect. I do enough of those things to where I expect the harvest from my activity. So I have a huge prospect. I can't control a person signing a contract to me. I can't control a person selling me their house. I can't control anything. The only thing I can control is my prospecting. So on a daily basis, I prospect like 200 plus people a day, whether it's through social media, whether it's through me going to restaurants and networking, whether it's me meeting up with pastors, attorneys, lawyers, doctors. I prospect 200 plus people a day. And I know that in a 5-day time frame, which I give myself to work, that's 1,000 people a week, 4,000 people a month, 48,000 people a year. From that 48,000 people, I know that I can expect a $3 or $4 or $5 million a year. If I want more, I prospect more. So my efforts, my visualization, it also matches up with my grind. So I don't go out expecting a major harvest if I haven't done what I'm supposed to do on my seed planting. The seed for me is the thought. Once I plant the thought, hey, look, my body is going to line up and do the activity that it takes to bring the things that matches up with my way of thinking, whether that's a grind or whether it's something easy. The thing is, I don't think about how hard the grind is because, once again, if it's something that I truly want, it's not a grind. It's something that I want to do. And, man, I know I probably ran over my time, but that's it, bro. That's how I can.
I like it. All right, let me ask you some follow-up questions. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. So one question that the Best Ever listeners might be wondering is, you lost it in the recession, you've bounced back. Where are you at now after you've done all this in terms of just business success?
I did a video, like I said, on my Facebook wall just yesterday. And so I have a couple different businesses, et cetera, and I have different ways that money comes to us from real estate. But anyway, so one of our merchant accounts, I got a 1099 in the mail. And so I really hadn't, until tax time, you keep up with your numbers and Podio, et cetera, but you really just don't keep up with it in detail. So I get the 1099s in the mail, and so here I am thinking, like, I want to get to $1 million a month. When I get back to $500,000 a month, I'm rolling, baby. And so I get these 1099s in the mail, and this particular account that I hadn't opened it until the end of October, and so it was November, December, so it was a 1099 for November, December. And I'm not going to tell my business or anything, but, dude, so I almost came to chill bumps and tears because I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, like I'm in the moment that I was visualizing. It's like that sometimes. I'm standing in the moment of how it feels to know that I made that much a month. So in a long story short, man, some months we've had $400,000. Some months we have $500,000. Here in the last, I would say, 6 or 7 months, it's been very explosive. A lot of things have changed in the economy, new presidents, new administration, new laws and regulations going into place that support and benefit real estate investors, hashtag Dodd-Frank to be exact. So a lot of these things are being lifted that's going to cause the economy to loosen up again. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to bust in the future. We know that it's a cycle. But where we are right now is one of the greatest times, and I feel like this, Joe, I feel like knowing that I not only survived, but I crushed the recession, right? I refused to participate in that full process of that recession. And I crushed it. I feel like I crushed my goals. I may not have crushed my goals to a billionaire, right? But to my own personal goals, I set out there and crushed it. So I refused to participate in it. So knowing that and knowing, okay, my dad told me, he's 75 years old. He said, son, if you survived and you did what you did in that cycle, he said, when it comes back, he was like, you're soaring, dude. And so, like now, yeah, when the recession comes again, I know what to do. It's like I know how to conquer that. I like how, like, an amazing game plan. And you know what? If that doesn't pan out the way I want to, I'm sure I can come up with something else, bro. I'm that confident, not only in myself, but in my God-given ability to come up with greatness. I feel like all of us have it inside of us.
Just for my own clarification, say $400,000 a month, how much of that goes towards expenses?
Me, I have a low overhead. Like my team, we only pay out on commission. So if they kill it, they eat it. Everybody operates the same way. Unless if they want some residual or some income, they recurs, they buy properties and buy themselves some income-producing properties, like I do. But I pay on commission on some of my expenses are super low. So meaning if the revenue doesn't come in, nothing gets paid out. I don't do mailers. The majority of my leads come from either referrals or a huge referral system that we put in place, like I said, the prospecting, or the Zillow technique that everybody knows me for from around the country. I do a lot of leads on Zillow. And so my expenses do, honestly, I would say from a marketing perspective, like I said, I won't count the commission as expensive. I would say I'm roughly looking at about $5,000 to $7,000 on the high end to some months, and then on the low end, $2,500 to $3,000, and that's including my websites, my tools that I use. Yeah.
And that's not including the commission you pay out to your team on the deal.
No, that's not a community. Like, let's just say, like, for instance, an average commission. Let's just say a house sells for $15,000. My average commission out on that is, let's just say, $2,000, a little bit over. Sometimes 10%, sometimes 20%, depending on what pay scale they're on. So you're talking about off every $10,000 that I make, I'm taking home and pocketing like $8,000 profit to the company.
All right, now I want to ask a question about the multi-sensory visualization. You do it every morning. The bank account goal, for example, you had an image of $500K a month in your bank account. How do you make that multi-sensory? What specifically were you doing?
Multi-sensory is understanding the five senses: the eyes, the ears, the sight, the eyes, the ears, the taste, the touch, all that stuff. So your fingers, your smell, your nose, and your ears. So multi-sensory would be like right now, if you're sitting at home and you're watching TV. Just imagine this thought with me. You're sitting at home watching TV, and you want to take a look at your bank account. So multi-sensory would be like, what show would you be watching if you were sitting at home watching TV? That's going to be playing in the background while you have your head down looking at the image on your screen, which is your bank account. that's being displayed to you, right? So it may be Sports Center playing in the background. So somebody said, well, how can you hear in your mind? You do it all the time. Think about like a song that you hear. A song that you hear in your mind, you play it over and over. You know, like it's like you can hear the tune, et cetera, but there's nothing playing. So it's the same thing. So you can hear things in the background. It could be kids playing. Include that in your visualization. So I may hear my son talking in the background or Sports Center or music playing in the background. I may touch the screen and move the screen with my fingers to a different screen to see the details of my statement and my visualization. So that's a touch. My eye, my smell, my favorite meal while I'm doing this. So in my visualization, I make sure that I include distinct things that I want to happen that would include my senses so that my physical body, I want to make myself come to tears almost when I'm visualizing. I want to make my heart rush and flutter with excitement. I want to affect my physical body now in my visualization. You know, you wake up from a bad dream and you wake up and your heart is racing, you're breathing hard. Yep. That was all a dream. The same way in your visualization, you want to be that deep and that engulfed in it to have it manifest faster.
That's awesome stuff. I have a letter that I wrote to myself from 10 years from now, and it describes my day in detail. And my fiance, Colleen, did the same thing. And it mentions, you know, that this podcast has over 100,000 downloads a day, and I control $2 billion in real estate, and I have been recognized by Junior Achievement as a Lifetime Giving Back Award, things like that. And we have each of ours printed on the dresser so that every morning when we wake up, we can see it, and it's right in front of our face when we get whatever we need to put on. And after this conversation, what I'm going to incorporate are some of the other senses in addition to simply reading it. Perhaps there will be some music playing that I'll associate to it, maybe some celebration music as I'm reading it, and some other things. I'll have to think about it, but you've definitely inspired me to do that, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thanks.
Well, where can the best ever listeners get in touch with you?
Well, I'm going to say the easiest one is reimentor@homesfor10k.com. That's my email. I'm a big person on Facebook. Like, I do a lot of Facebook posting. My fan page is Bryan $Harris, and it's the actual simple $. And I can't accept any more personal friends. Also, Instagram, the Bryan Harris, and homesfor10k.com. Go check us out. Subscribe. It's free. And, guys, that's how you reach me.
Sweet. Well, Bryan, thanks for being on the show. This was a lesson in, as you said, regardless of what happens with the economy, it wasn't the economy and it isn't the economy. It's about us as individuals. And I love your sentence where you said, anytime I point a finger at you, 3 fingers are pointed back at me as a cause. So it really is us, and that's something that I think we all can use a reminder every now and then. So thanks for being on the show. Hope you have a best ever day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, man. I look forward to it.